What do? I do one thing. I think of digital in terms of like a real estate. There's a metaphor. So like a city. So if you look at this, this is what I look. I fly high and I look across all the solutions and I think, what can I do? How do I construct websites, landing pages, email campaigns, all of that stuff? What does that digital estate look like? What does it look like from up high? So one of these buildings could be a website. And then what I do is I try to map that into the real world. So if you think about real estate, you build a house. And inside that house, you then have communities of people. Think about this convention center here. There are many different audiences that live in this convention center. A lot of communication, a lot of thought and planning. Same thing with a website. So what happens is our company went from building one website to a brand that says, I don't want you to build me one website, I want you to build us 1,000. How do you manage that estate? And effectively, there are 6 things that we think about managing a digital estate. And we'll come back to the architecture bit. To do that, you have to have scale and simplicity. You cannot scale if it's not simple. It just will not happen. If you make something and it's not easy for somebody else to do, it will never scale. That is one thing where we think about and say, can I scale it? It means, can somebody else use it? It's a very simple question. The second thing is agility and speed, 2 totally different things. You can be fast, but you have to also be able to change at pace. We'll talk to that later on. Global, local, yada, yada, put them together and you get the word glocal. You've heard this a lot before. However, you do, when you come to a level of understanding around digital estates, need to be able to have global control with local empowerment. How do you do that? You need to design for it, and we'll talk about that in the architecture piece. Rich and consistent. Rich because it's got to be a rich, dynamic experience, but at the same time, across those 1,000 properties, it's got to be consistent. And the last but one, there is agency and partner. As a brand, what we have to do is enable them to orchestrate. They will not be able to do everything themselves across the estate. So you have to rely on agencies and partners. And how do you allow them to do the things rich and consistent, global, local, agility and speed, and scale, and make it simple if you haven't enabled them? And it's your responsibility as a brand to enable them. I very rarely see that in these solutions that I have. I normally see, go do. And the last one, talks around the customer experience. The best companies that I've seen broaden the experience by adding channels and deepen them. We're going to go now into a picture. And this is where I want a little bit of trust from you guys. Do you draw this picture for your clients, your brands? If you're an agency, do you provide it? As a brand, do you provide it? And obviously, are you aligned on it? You look across the top, you've got multi-channel, you've got personalization. 2 brilliant, beautiful buzzwords. Down, you deepen. You deepen that experience through personalization, and you broaden it. So you make a conscious decision whether you want to interact or engage with your customers, either broad and deep. First thing I do is I get them to start scanning out, how deep are we going in each one of those channels? What does it look like? Draw the picture for me, for the solution that I'm going to provide. Where do you see it? So, for example, on the desktop, how far are you personalizing? Are you personalizing just the page? Are you personalizing the pieces on the page, which we call placements? Or are you personalizing bits of text on the page, which we call placeholders? How much personalization are you doing? The next thing we do is that for each one of the key customer journeys that you're trying to connect, you need to figure out what is the path through there across those channels. Now, I want, again, to ask you a question. It's a question of trust. Put your hands up if you can say, as an agency or a brand, for your key customer journeys, that you have an idea of what that looks like. And therein lies the problem. So this is going back to the keynotes. I think Christina's in the room. I won't embarrass you. But why? Why do we not know that? And at the moment, I would say, in your operate mode, you are building at a fanatic rate content inside those channels without a clear understanding of why. This goes a little bit deeper as to what kind of thing can you put in front of people to say, this is what I need to understand so I can make decisions around the journeys across the channels and across personalization. And there's a session later on talking about personalization. They will go into more detail around this. We'll touch upon it. 3 things. We're going to look at how we operate, we're going to look at how we architect, and then we're going to look at how we plan for this. Any questions? Fantastic.